really big question, and I think we really need to start thinking about what we as a society understand as circularity and what we understand as materials and chemicals. I think it's fair to say that people in society don't understand where stuff comes from,
Mhm.
um, and certainly the impact of chemicals on their lives. We think about maybe circularity being bottles being recycled into new bottles, or maybe mattresses being recycled into new mattresses, but it goes way beyond that. Chemicals, there's this sort of metric that's been kicking around for a few years now, that 95% of all manufactured goods, everything that we use, is somehow reliant upon chemicals in their process,
Mhm.
um, which is quite a statistic. And when we start thinking about chemicals in that kind of scenario, really we're talking about petrochemicals. And
Mhm.
ultimately, a lot of the stuff that we use is coming from oil, from the oil and gas industry.
Mhm.
As well as extracting oil and gas to heat our homes and to power our cars and aeroplanes and everything else in transportation. That industry also provides the feedstock for chemicals. It provides the carbon. And that's
Mhm.
where really circularity in the chemical industry comes into play. It's not
Mhm.
just about kind of taking those bottles and recycling them back into new bottles, or taking, like I said, mattresses and back into mattresses. It is about circularity of carbon and where we get future feedstocks from.
Okay.
The way that most of the major chemical companies, including my old employers, BASF, think about this is in a number of different circles. So obviously there are things that we can do as consumers to reduce and reuse the materials and the products that we have.
Mhm.
But then at end of life, and there will come a point where things become waste and that we have no longer any value upon them,
Mhm.
they've got to be reused in the future. Um, there's a scenario kind of playing out where as fuels start to decline and we move to electric vehicles, for example,
Mhm.
and also we start to decarbonize our energy, which is going really well, and we're using lots of renewables,
Yes.
then the extraction of sort of oil and gas will start to decline, and that will have an impact on the availability of feedstocks for the chemical industry. So we need to think about where we get carbon from, and this is where that sort of circularity of carbon comes into the piece. So again, one of those kind of circular loops is recycling, but then
Mhm.
there are more advanced technologies of looking at things like depolymerization or treating materials in certain ways to get them back to feedstocks that we can
Mhm.
use within the chemical industry.